Chapter 359, The Blasphemer. Just as Audrey asked instead of the sun, why? The hanged man, Alger, didn't answer her directly as he continued on. Abraham, Antigonus, Ammon, Jacob, and Tamara are the 5 great families that supported the establishment of the Tudor dynasty, and they were second only to the Blood Emperor. Among them, the Ammon family is the most mysterious one. They have the least history left behind, and they seem to have been distorted and covered up by some kind of power. There was a piece of information that came from the king of the 5 seas, Nast. The Ammons are a family of blasphemers, and they wield the secrets to usurp the powers of deities. Also, the Ammon family call themselves the descendants of the ancient sun god. Derek Berg was left confused. In his knowledge of myths, there was no such thing as an ancient sun god. Among the 8 ancient deities, Giant King Aumir, Dragon of Imagination Ankwelt, Mutant King Kvaster, Elf King Soniathrim, King of Demonic Wolves Phlegrea, Vampire Ancestor Lilith, Phoenix Ancestor Gregrace, and Devil Monarch Farbody, none of them wielded the authority of the sun. Derek seriously considered this problem. If I really need to make a connection, the Lord that created everything, the omnipotent and omniscient God, had shown powers in the sun domain. Could the Ammon family be his descendant? Noticing that sun wasn't saying anything, Alger stroked the stubble on his chin and said, "The Ammon family is an ancient family clan from 1 to 2,000 years ago. It is almost history itself. I'm very curious. Why did the gentleman that you met appear around the City of Silver? What is his goal?" That's right, how could the Ammon family, which exists in the world of Mr. Hanged Man, Miss Justice, and company, appear around our City of Silver? Why did he fail to fulfill his promise after accepting the request of being a guest? He mysteriously left and caused the entire team to lose control. Yes, other than the captain. What did he want to do? What was he looking for? If he is a descendant of the Lord, perhaps his purpose is the same as mine. To find out the cause of the cataclysm from ancient times and to find out the truth of the curse. Derek let his imagination run wild for a moment. After a while, he shook his head and said, "Mr. Hanged Man, I'm unable to answer your question. I'm also trying to figure out this matter." Alger replied, looking somewhat disappointed, "Try to communicate with the former captain in your neighboring cell more. See if you can dig up more information from him." Upon saying this, he thought for a moment and warned, "However, you must be careful and prudent. I think that person is very dangerous." "Very dangerous? You think so too?" Derek asked, feeling somewhat surprised. The elders of the 6-member council also thought the same. The hanged man looked up at the lofty dome and took a deep breath. Those who don't think so are the ones without sound minds. Seeing that the sun was still confused, he shook his head and said, "He's the only surviving member of the exploratory team. Just this matter alone is enough to prove that there's something tremendously wrong with him. He's been in the dungeon facing rampagers for 42 years, yet he remains very lucid and rational. This shows how weird he is. Compounded with the matter regarding the mysterious Ammon, the danger is obvious." These were the little bits and pieces that Derek had thought about in the past, but he hadn't yet connected together. When he heard that, he suddenly became enlightened and immediately said sincerely, "I understand. Thank you, Mr. Hanged Man." Audrey, who was listening attentively and observing, resisted the urge to cover her face with her hand. She felt that the sun was even more naive than she was. Seeing that everyone's curiosity had been satisfied, that even the gloomy Mr. World had slightly adjusted his posture, and that the sun didn't seem to have any other requests, she turned her head to the end of the long bronze table and said with a smile, "Mr. Fool, I request a private exchange." Again. Klein was amused as he nodded and said, "Sure." He immediately shielded the senses of the hanged man and company, rather than isolating himself and Miss Justice. It was mainly because he was afraid that the others might end up communicating out of boredom, thereby exposing the fact that the world was only a repeater. After receiving the signal, Audrey smiled and said, "Mr. Fool, I have another 3 new pages of Roselle's diary." After the card of blasphemy was stolen by the Fool's Blessed, she didn't avoid visiting the Royal Museum out of guilt. Instead, she acted as if nothing had happened. She openly requested this to her father, and in the week after the exhibition ended, she got another chance to flip through the notebook. Audrey thought that appearing unfazed was the best way to avoid suspicion. If she maintained the constant act of feeling guilty and did not do what was logical, even if the Church of the God of Steam didn't suspect her previously, they would subsequently feel that there was a problem. According to her own experience, she believed that the very first few pages of a diary would reveal a lot of information, so she mainly memorized the first 3 pages. Without waiting for the fool to speak, she quickly added, "I understand that this isn't a matter that requires a private exchange, but I wish to keep this from Miss Magician for a week or 2. That way, even if she knows that you need Roselle's diary in the future, she wouldn't suspect that I'm Justice." She had seen Fours and Zio once midweek, and by leading the conversation, she had naturally mentioned how her beloved dog, Susie, had chewed the Roselle notebook, causing it to be irrecoverable. Typically speaking, she no longer needed to hide the fact that Mr. Fool needed Roselle's diary, but using her telepathist abilities, she simulated what Fours would think, believing that she would have such a thought. "What? That's a diary. That's a diary Roselle recorded his secrets in? Even Mr. Fool places so much importance on it." I recall that Miss Audrey has some. Wait a moment. She happened to have those diary pages chewed up by her dog a few days ago. Isn't this too much of a coincidence? To prevent Fours from having such thoughts, Audrey hoped to keep it a secret for at least another week. After becoming a telepathist, not only was she able to see the aura and the emotional color of the target, but she was also able to read the superficial thoughts of others and could also simulate their thoughts. Thus, she understood one thing, that in the process of guiding others, she had to try her best not to be abrupt or act against logic and reason. Only when all the details were subtle enough and reasonable enough to make the target not realize that she was being guided would she be considered a qualified telepathist. Subtle and reasonable are the 2 most important keywords. Audrey concluded in her mind. The reason why she went to read Roselle's notebook, again, was precisely to avoid being unreasonable. She truly is worthy of being a telepathist. She's recognized long ago that Miss Magician is one of the 2 people that she had recommended. Klein smiled in a noncommittal manner. "What do you want to exchange those 3 pages for?" This question was asked with confidence because, after obtaining the Book of Secrets, his greatest weakness in the field of mysticism had already been bridged. As for the secrets of the other deities, as well as his knowledge of sequences, he knew a lot about them. Just any one of them was enough to deal with Miss Justice. "We will still be friends if you don't talk about the psychiatrist formula." Klein lampooned in his heart. Audrey had already long thought of her question. She remained reserved for a second before saying, "Mr. Fool, I wish to ask one question. Why is it said that the cards of blasphemy hide the profound secrets of the deities?" "Great question." Klein smiled secretly. Giving her a look for her to figure it out herself, he said deeply and calmly, "Sequence 0, Black Emperor." "Sequence 0? There's still a sequence 0. There's a sequence 0 above sequence 1. Is that a sequence representing a god? The Black Emperor is a god." A series of questions suddenly surfaced in Audrey's mind. This caused her to be pleasantly surprised, satisfied, and shocked. Restraining her agitation and unconcealable excitement, she took a deep breath and conjured the 3 pages of Roselle's diary. Klein took it, took a quick glance, and confirmed that this was not one of the ones he had seen before. 23rd February, 1143. I've transmigrated to this world for more than a week. I have to write something down and describe the things I have encountered, or I feel like I'll go crazy. If I write it in simplified Chinese, I'm sure that no one will be able to decipher it. This world uses alphabetical words. I am now Roselle Gustave, but I'll never forget my real name. Guangtao. I don't know how I transmigrated either. I carefully recalled and thought about it for a long time, and then I remembered that a few days before my transmigration, I bought a very mysterious silver plate with some strange symbols and patterns engraved on it. It was extremely interesting. However, it did not reappear after my transmigration here. It's not my cheat item. This is a world similar to ancient Europe. It's after the Renaissance, and cannons and guns have appeared, but they're rather crude and primitive. As for me, Huang Tao Roselle Gustav, as a fan of online literature, I loved reading transmigration with technology genre novels. I know quite a lot of useful things and specifically read up on the corresponding knowledge. This is the stage where I can display my abilities. But I realize that my fucking memory isn't good. I've almost forgotten everything. The heavens allowed me to transmigrate to another world, but I wasn't given an outstanding memory or a system. Nor was I given a two-way door. How can I survive like this? All right, I'll start with some details. When I have the money, I'll hire a bunch of craftsmen, inventors, and scientists. I'm only responsible for giving them ideas. It's been a long time since I felt so full of anticipation for the future. But I still miss Mom and Dad a little. Besides, the entertainment in this world is too monotonous. The one or two maids don't look that good, and their entire bodies exude rustic vibes. It completely shatters my imagination of having young, beautiful maidens accompanying me. I haven't finished reading Lin Gao's 500 Good-for-Nothings. And there are so many beauties that are awaiting me on TikTok. The games, Kings of Glory and PUBG, are still waiting for me. Thinking about them makes me feel a little depressed. As Klein read, he nearly frowned. Initially, he had determined, from the appearance of Pirate King and the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, that Roselle had crossed over 3 to 5 years earlier than him. But now, he realized that the gap between their transmigrations couldn't be more than a year. But why was there a difference of nearly 200 years on this side? A web novel that has been serialized since 2009, talking about 500 transmigrators.